Hey everyone, good morning. Good morning, good morning. How you all doing? My name is Bami, founder of Inspire to Soar Limited. My passion and my mission is to tend the broken wings of your dreams so that you can be inspired to soar above your troubles. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome. It's good to have you. If you're a returning guest, thank you for joining me once again. So if you've been following this page for the past few days at least, you would have seen a post that I wrote a few days ago about serving eviction notice on my gremlin. By that I mean the gremlin of negative self-talk and self-doubt. So this is what I want to talk to you about this morning, but I want to talk to you about it from a slightly different angle, i.e. through the lenses of the battle that goes on in our mind. So if you know you have an opponent or an enemy, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to know the tricks that can be used to trip you. At least you have an idea. And you know what? A lot of the self-limiting beliefs, negative self-talk that we put ourselves through, that can be the biggest enemy of all. What do I even mean? Okay. Now, have you ever thought about the fact that a lot of the internal battles that you have, a lot of internal battles that we have as individuals, actually it has to do with the lies about ourselves that we have believed? Maybe the lies that we have believed about what people think of us or what we think of ourselves. The lies are still the same. What they tend to do is put you down and get in the way of achieving your goals, get in the way of moving on and living the fulfilling life that you desire. So when I was in that article, if you check the page, you will see the link to it. It's on Thrive Global and you can check it out. Now, one of the things I said was that I call this negative self-talk voice, I call it my gremlin. So if you hear me use the word gremlin, then you know that that's what I'm talking about. And I cannot speak for anybody else, but I can speak for myself. For years, I lived with this gremlin in my head, telling me I'm not good enough, or telling me I cannot do certain things, telling me I was highlighting my weaknesses, highlighting my deficiencies, highlighting my vulnerabilities, for want of a better word, highlighting the ways in which I didn't measure up to the standard that I had in my head, this standard of perfection. And isn't that the case that, thank you whoever it is that's joined me, I don't know who you are, but thank you for joining me. Isn't that the case that a lot of us, we are driven almost to the point of hurting ourselves, driven by the lies we tell ourselves, the lies we believe about ourselves, the negative self-talk we give ourselves. You still think I'm talking in riddles? Okay, I'll give you an example. I'll go to the example I used in that article, and it has to do with my writing. Now, writing is something I've loved for a very long time, and I've been writing for 14 years, give or take. Now, for a long time, I tried to publish my book and everything like that, and of course I had rejections, I had slam doors in my face, and it got to the point where I just thought, okay, you know what, maybe nobody wants to, I bought into the lie that maybe nobody wants to read what I wrote. Maybe I wasn't good enough a writer. After all, on a daily basis, I read so many fantastic articles out there by fantastic writers, by brilliant writers. How could I even think I could measure up, or I could be accepted, or my writing could be accepted? And you know, the thing is, like, even after I signed my publishing contract with Author Academy Elite, it still carried on. And you must be thinking, how so? Why did that happen? And this thing, it goes back to the tricks that my mind has played on me for so many years. That, okay, you know what? As long as I can put on the facade of success, I can blag with the rest of them. I can show you how I can pretend to be confident. I can pretend to have it all together. That as long as I can do all of, I like to myself that as long as I can do all of those things, then living with some negative self-talk is just par for course. That, okay, I can live with, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not a good enough writer. I can live with, maybe I'm not a good enough speaker, or whatever, and the list went on. And do you know, the thing is, I'd already signed the publishing contract. So I'd already gone through an interview and I'd been deemed good enough by my publisher. And not just that, I'd written the first draft of my manuscript by then. So what that means is that when it comes to this gremlin of self-doubt, of negative self-talk, it can trip you up at any time. It doesn't matter how successful you are. There will be times when self-doubt will creep in, or when you will think that maybe this is not good enough or whatever it is. But at whatever stage in your life, in your career, in your business, in your ministry, at whatever stage that this gremlin decides to show up, my advice and my encouragement is still the same. You need to serve it. It's an eviction notice, pronto. Because the thing is, if the gremlin stays, you are not gonna be able to achieve your potential. You're not going to be able to get to where you want to get to, because it will then believe all of the lies about what you cannot do, what is impossible, the obstacles and everything like that. And those are the tricks that our minds play on us. So you're probably watching this and going, oh, you don't know how hard I've tried. You don't know how many rejections I've had. You don't know how I've been pushed back. You don't know how difficult life is. You don't know the obstacles I have to push through. And that's the truth. I haven't got a clue. So I might just be this person who's saying all of these things and doesn't know anything, doesn't have any idea about what you're going through, about what is going on in your life. But one thing I can tell you though is this: no matter how many times you have tried, no matter how many times and failed, no matter how many times you have tried to push through something and it hasn't been successful, as long as you know it is what you want, it is worth it to keep trying. Because if you've tried in certain ways, then you know all of the ways that will not work. So why don't you try another way? And those are the things that the gremlin will be telling you, don't even think about it. After all, because in my case, the gremlin was going, what makes you think that anybody wants to read your life story? People go through trauma all the time. People have more difficult lives than you. People who they've overcome bigger things than you have. But you know what? Nobody else has lived my story. Nobody else can own my story for me. And that was one of the things that I had to come to realize and tell the gremlin that, you know what, it is time for you to be served a permanent eviction notice. You don't belong in my head. You don't belong in my mind, because you will get in the way of what I want to do. And because the tricks of the gremlin, the tricks of self-doubt, negative, they can be very subtle. And a lot of times it appears at least in your own head, it appears that they make sense. They make sense to you. That, okay, so for example, let's say you have a business venture and you've spent thousands of pounds on it and you've lost it all. So it might make sense in your head that, okay, you know what, maybe this is not the business you should be in. But before you consign everything you've worked on down the drain, I would suggest find people who know better than you, people who have gone ahead successfully, and let them advise you, let them tell you, let them give you good counsel and everything like that. But even if let's look at the idea of the business, you might take counsel and you might be advised that, okay, maybe you need to tweak this, or maybe you should change tack or change direction or whatever like that. Just because you have to change direction doesn't make you a failure. Just because you have to change strategy, you have to change methods, that doesn't make you a failure. And yet, this is what the gremlin will tell you. The gremlin will go, you are a failure, you cannot do this, you might as well give up, and the list goes on. So I want to ask you the question. Well, that's if you're prepared to be as vulnerable with me as I'm being with you. Can you name one way in which you have learned to overcome or push through self-doubt? I want you to write that in the comments below, because we all need to learn from one another. Because, like I said, no matter how successful you've been in the past, self-doubt, negative self-talk will try and rear its ugly head. Because, you know, a lot of the people we look up to in different spheres, in business, in life, or whatever, who are successful and everything like that, every single one of them will still have some battle with self-doubt. Will still have some battles with negative self-talk, especially when they're taking on new frontiers, when they're taking on new territory, when they're taking on bigger challenges and all that stuff. But do you know what makes the difference? What makes the difference is the fact that they push through and they give self-doubt, they serve it its marching orders and decide to push through. So let's learn from one another. One of the things I raised in that article is the fact that, number one, for me, learning and coming to terms with where I was at, rather than lying to myself. So the tricks that had tripped me up for so long was that, okay, I could live with negative self-talk, I could live with a little bit of what's what I'm looking for, that I could live with a little bit of not feeling good enough, of putting myself down, of feeling inferior in a certain way, that I could live with that. After all, in other areas I was doing well, blah blah blah, and the list goes on. But I had to get to the point where I realized that those lies I told myself, those tricks that my mind was playing on me, was getting in the way of where I wanted to head to. Because I'd already signed the publishing contract and everything, and I had a goal in mind. I'd even set a date for when I wanted to launch my book. So in some respect, I think that deadline did help me as well. So for some, a deadline might help you as well, because if you give yourself a deadline, not an unrealistic one obviously, but a deadline that you know that deep within you that you can work towards. So for me, that deadline helped me, and as a result, I got the book published. I did all of the things I was supposed to do. Even going through one of the most difficult parts of the process, i.e., sending the book, the first draft, to one of my beta readers and then on to the editor. As any author will tell you, your book becomes like a baby, and you can get so territorial about it, which was what I did. And in the interest of full disclosure, that was it. I got so attached to this baby of mine, which was my book, that I didn't want anyone to say anything bad about it. I didn't want any criticism or whatever like that. But the truth of the matter was, I knew that I needed a couple of different pairs of eyes to read through it, to check and see the errors that I wouldn't have seen, to make sure that it reads better and all of those things. So pushing through and telling the gremlin that, look, you know what, you don't have a place here. I know you are here. I know I've lived with you residing in my head for virtually all my life, but I am giving you the boot because I want to be a published author, because it was one of my biggest dreams. And you know what? The day I got the proof of my book, a month before launching, I cannot tell you how amazing that feeling was. I cannot tell you how fulfilling that feeling was. And of course, it was like tongue out, sticking out my tongue at the gremlin, because the gremlin was nowhere to be found. So I want to encourage you that to get in touch with who you are, with where you are, and those lies that you've convinced yourself about yourself, the tricks that your mind has played on you for so long. And I want you to figure out what lies your gremlin has got you to believe, and make the decision that you will give the gremlin the boot. Make the decision that you will ditch negative self-talk. You will ditch self-doubt, because in the book of Proverbs it says that as a man or a woman thinks in his heart, so is he. So whatever you think you are, that's the way you will live your life. So if you continually think that you are a failure, that if you continually think that you are defective in any way, you will live your life according to that. And that is the thing, and that is why the tricks that our minds play on us, they are the biggest enemies of all, because people can say all sorts of things about you, but what do you believe about yourself? And whether you like it or not, you will act upon the things you believe about yourself, whether they're good or whether they're bad. But I dare say that today is a new day. It is a new opportunity for you to look at your life again and say, okay, you know what? In what areas have I believed lies about myself? How am I going to push through this? How am I going to ditch these lies? So in your comments, because remember I said, share one thing you do, or one thing you have done in the past, or one thing you're going to do to ditch self-doubt, to ditch negative self-talk. So it can be something as simple as, today I am deciding that I am enough. Today I am deciding that I have what it takes, and I will do something about it. That it doesn't matter the lies I've believed all my life, that today is the day I will push that lie aside and do something in line with the truth about myself, I believe. So, because your dreams, your potential, the fulfilling life that you desire, I dare say that it is worth fighting for. I know it's worth fighting for, because you know what? Every single time I see my book now, it brings me so much joy. And especially when people tell me how much it has helped them, how much it has encouraged them, when I hear time and time again and look at the reviews. So for me, if I bought into the lies, if I bought into the tricks that my mind has played on me, that book will never have seen the light of day. Okay, now, if you've gone through trauma, or you know anyone who's ever gone through trauma, and they're seeking fulfillment in their life, and they want a roadmap to help them along, that was what I wrote my book for. The title is Navigating Your New Normal. In the notes, I've put the Amazon link so you can check it out, check out the reviews, and get yourself a copy. And if you've read the book, and you found it helpful, why not share it with others? Why not encourage someone who needs it to read it? For more inspiring videos, I want to encourage you to visit the Inspire to Soar YouTube channel. The link is also there, so get onto YouTube, like and subscribe, and that way, when new videos are available, videos that you might not necessarily be able to find in your Facebook feed, they will be there, and you can be inspired. So, as you head into the weekend, be determined that you will ditch negative self-talk, you will ditch self-doubt, and that you will push through all of the lies you've told yourself about what you cannot do, about the limitations that you have and everything, and that you will push on to the life you want. Because here's the thing, ditching self-doubt does not mean you lie about your reality. No, that's not what I'm talking about. There will always be limitations in certain areas and everything like that, especially when we talk about physical limitations and those kind of things. But there would always be opportunities. There would always be possibilities. And if you will dare to ditch the negativity, you will realize that as long as you're alive, you have more possibilities available to you than the limitations that are stacked against you. I hope that makes sense to you. So if you need someone to help you along in the journey of fulfilling your potential and all of those things, or pushing through obstacles in the aftermath of difficulties of life, then you can check out my website. It's www.inspiredtosoar.co.uk. I repeat, it's www.inspiredtosoar.co.uk. And all the other details will be on the page as well. Until the next time, be inspired to soar, and I dare you, give the gremlin of self-doubt and negative self-talk the boot forever, and you will be amazed at how fulfilling your life will become. Not necessarily easier, but fulfilling nonetheless. Until the next time, take care. Bye.